This is Let's Talk Chattanooga Real Estate, the podcast where we cover home buying, home selling, home improvement tips and ideas, market trends and developments, and investing in real estate. If you own real estate in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area, or want to own real estate here, then you're in the right place. Let's Talk Chattanooga Real Estate is hosted by Blake Watson, a real estate agent and investor in Tennessee and Georgia.
Welcome to the show. I'm Blake Watson with Epic Realty, and one of the questions I get every week, especially from first-time homebuyers, is this: is it a good time to buy a house in Chattanooga, or should I hold off a bit longer and wait for a better time? Well, today on Let's Talk Chattanooga Real Estate, we're discussing that very question. Is now a good time to buy a house in Chattanooga? We're going to walk through where the prices are heading, how competitive the market is, what inventory looks like, and what mortgage rates are doing, and the seasonal timing opportunities, and of course, local home buying assistance programs. And we will finally look at what the risks might be if you wait 6 to 12 months to buy in 2026. And I'm recording this in mid-October 2025, and my goal is to help you have a clearer view of whether now is right for you. First, let's look at Chattanooga home prices. Are they rising? Are they flat? Are they cooling? Well, probably the most obvious question is, are home prices still going up? In Chattanooga, the answer is yes, but the pace has moderated. The median sales price in the Chattanooga MLS in September was $343,000, and that's up about 7% from September a year ago. But actually, it's not quite that much of an increase month to month and even throughout the year. This still suggests that demand remains strong and appreciation is still alive, though not with the breakneck growth that we saw in the boom years of 2021, 2022. In terms of price per square foot, you're seeing figures around $200 a square foot. That depends on the neighborhood and the quality of the home. Certainly it can be more than that, and it also can be less than that. That's just kind of a figure to give you an idea. And these numbers tell us that if you buy now, you're still likely to benefit from continued appreciation, assuming nothing drastic occurs, like what if Volkswagen were to close their plant or there was some other economic disaster here in Chattanooga. The bottom line is prices are still climbing, but not quickly. A buyer might get some negotiating room, but they shouldn't expect deep bargains, especially in established neighborhoods. The continued upward trend gives a reason to move now rather than wait. Now let's look at market competition. What do you expect in the future? Even with moderate price growth, there are many factors in considering if it's a good market to buy. So here's what you should know about Chattanooga now. The average home in Chattanooga is receiving about 2 offers, a little less than 2 offers, before going under contract. The average days on market is roughly 52 days as of September. That's just over 7 weeks. This gives buyers a little more breathing room than in the hotter years of 21, 22. Homes that are well priced, well staged, and in good condition still move more quickly and may still attract multiple offers. It still happens, but we're not seeing a frenzy on most homes. And what does this mean in practice? Well, as a buyer, you may still need to present a clean offer. And that means good proof of funds, that letter that shows that you're pre-qualified. You want strong financing and minimal contingencies. But you may have leverage to negotiate inspection repairs or seller concessions. You're less likely to get outbid, but you still can't fiddle around too long on decision making because someone else still may jump right in there and get that house from you. So let's talk about the current inventory trends in Chattanooga. We have more houses right now in the Chattanooga MLS than we have had since December of 2016. So back in December of 2016, we had 3,674 actual homes listed. And in September of 2025, we had 3,684 homes listed. So roughly the same amount. You had to go all the way back to December of 2016 to match the number of homes that are available for sale right now. And that's been increasing. We have an increase in supply in Chattanooga. Back in, I think it was February of 2022 or maybe 21, we were down to like 1,000 homes, just 1,000. And now we're well over 3 times that. So we have a lot of inventory right now. It's not an enormous amount of inventory, not like back in the Great Recession. This is a very good amount of inventory that allows for buyers and sellers to have a very fair negotiation. Another way to look at this is what we call in the real estate business the absorption rate, which means how many months' supply of inventory do we have. If we continue to sell houses in the Chattanooga MLS at the current rate, and we have the current inventory, how long would it take to sell out? And currently, that number is running right at 4.3 months. A year ago, back in September of 24, it was 3.5 months. So we now have over 4 months supply of inventory. Now, let me give you some perspective. Anytime a market has less than 4 months of inventory, then it's considered a seller's market. The sellers have the upper hand and usually don't have to do a lot of negotiating to sell their house. Then, when you have 4 to 6 months of inventory, it's considered a balanced market, which is really a desired market where you have kind of a balance of buyers and sellers. Both have their needs and they both are able to negotiate and have some of their needs, perhaps all of their needs met. And it's just a good environment for real estate to flourish when you have a balanced market. Then when you have over 6 months of supply, then you're talking about a buyer's market in which buyers have more negotiation power. And that's because you've got houses sitting on the market for 6 months to a year and nobody's buying them. So buyers are few and far between and everybody needs them. But right now, we're right at 4.3 months of supply, the absorption rate, 4.3 months. So that is a balanced market. That's good news, and that means it's a good time for buying. Now, let's look at mortgage rates. This is usually a deal breaker. No matter how good a home is, whether you can afford it often depends on the mortgage rate that you lock in. So here's where things stand. The 30-year fixed rate mortgage is hovering a little over 6.25% as of this week per Freddie Mac's survey. And that rate is the lowest it's been in roughly a year. It had dipped down in September of 2024 to close to that amount, but then it went right back up to about 7% and kind of rode 7% through most of this year and then started slipping down about 6 weeks ago or so. So now we have this running right about 6.25%, give or take, and that's a very good rate for us as compared to what we've had over the past year, couple of years. So what's important in the near term? Rates could still creep back up, especially if inflation sticks around. And if rates begin creeping up, the cost of waiting gets steeper more quickly. Given the current rate, many buyers have a small window to act before upward rate momentum possibly resumes. Now let's talk about seasonal timing. Mid-October actually matters. You might be surprised, but right now, mid-October is often one of the smarter times to buy. And that is because historically, listings tend to go up by about 32% around this time of year compared to earlier in the year, which would be the spring and summer, as more homeowners put their homes on the market before winter. And many buyers also pause during the fall. They think the market is cooling, and that gives you less competition on good days because there are fewer buyers. So if a good home shows up this month, you probably have more selection and fewer competing offers than you would have in midsummer when it's generally a little bit not just hotter outside, but the market's a little bit hotter as people are trying to get in place before the school year begins. It's a bit of a sweet spot here in mid-October. Now let's talk about a very big benefit, especially for first-time home buyers. It's an assistance program, and they're readily available from our government. The city of Chattanooga and the state of Tennessee and the state of Georgia, they have some strong resources, and a few of them are very useful if you're a first-time home buyer. In Tennessee, you've got the THDA, Great Choice, and Great Choice Plus down payment assistance program. These programs help with down payments, often in tiers like $6,000 or $15,000. That all depends on income, and there are some home price limitations. And then there's the program, the Homeownership for Heroes, service members, first responders, that sort of thing. And then Chattanooga Neighborhood Enterprise. They call it CNE. You may have heard of that. Locally, CNE may offer up to $15,000 in down payment assistance via a second lien in certain cases. So you can look into that. Then in Georgia, we have the Georgia Dream program. That offers down payment assistance up to $10,000 in many cases. So these programs can bridge the gap to get you into home ownership more easily than you might think. In many cases, a buyer who qualifies for down payment assistance can afford more house today than they might have thought. And the thing is, most first-time home buyers can qualify for at least some assistance. I would strongly advise you to talk to a mortgage loan officer about your particular situation and see if there's something that could work for you. I've had several great loan officers on this podcast, and I would be glad to connect you with a mortgage loan officer if you just message me and ask. I'll give you some direction there. So the big question, do you wait 6 to 12 months? What's the risk? What if I just wait until next year? There is potential upside to waiting. Mortgage rates may drop. That gives you a lower monthly payment and more buying power if that happens. And more homes might hit the market in the spring of 2026, which gives you more selection. That certainly is possible. So understand there is potentially an upside. But here's the counter argument against that. If rates don't fall significantly, you've lost out on a year of equity growth. At a baseline 5% appreciation, which is forecasted, that's 5% of appreciation that you miss. And that's the difference between a home being $350,000 today or over $17,000 more a year from now at a 5% appreciation rate. So the same house that you buy today, a year from now, might be 5% more. So if prices continue creeping upward, a home you could have bought this year might cost more a year from now. Then here's another concern if you wait. You delay your time in the market, compounding the loss of home equity growth and buyer momentum. You also lose the opportunity to pay down a portion of your mortgage, even if it's just a year. So you're missing out on the equity that you could be building. In many scenarios, unless rates drop sharply, which could of course happen, but it's not likely, waiting gives you more downside risk than upside potential, especially in a moderately appreciating market like Chattanooga right now. To help simplify the is now good for me decision, here's a quick litmus test. Can you qualify now? If your credit, your income, and your debt levels already support the payment, waiting isn't adding much benefit. Are you comfortable with modest competition? You'll likely not get a perfect deal, but if you're prepared to act decisively, you can win solid offers. Will you stay 5+ years in the home? The longer you stay, the more time appreciation and mortgage amortization works in your favor. And then, are you eligible for down payment assistance or a support program? If yes, well, that shifts your break-even point toward buying even sooner. If you check most of these boxes, well, now becomes a very compelling window of opportunity. So is now a good time to buy in Chattanooga? The evidence leans towards yes, with caveats. You won't always find the perfect deal. But remember that the home you buy today doesn't have to be the home you live in the rest of your life. But in a market that's still appreciating, good enough deals can pan out very favorably over time, and you'll be thinking, what a great deal I had 10 years from now. If you'd like to discuss the market in further detail or talk about your specific situation, well, that's why I'm here. I would welcome your call or message, and I look forward to the opportunity to share what's happening in the Chattanooga and Northwest Georgia real estate markets. I'd love to talk with you about it. I'm Blake Watson with Epic Realty. You can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook as Blake Watson and on Instagram as Rock and Roll Blake. My website is athomechattanooga.com. You can call me at 423-315-1815, or my brokerage phone is 888-893-3537. Now, if you found today's podcast helpful, please share it with a friend, and I wish you the best in your real estate journey.